Let's have a word with Alex Phillips, former MEP, of course, and presenter of Jeremy Kyle Live last night. So, Alex, very good morning to you.
All right, good morning.
Are you doing that all week then?
Yeah, you guys are working me hard at the moment.
That's good.
I do need a drink after it.
You certainly do. You certainly do. I'm not taking any advice from these studies that have been going on for decades that say don't drink anything at all. Absolutely ridiculous. Let's kick off, though, Alex, with... I want to talk about the North Sea as well, but let's kick off with this great story in the Mail, shutting down these immigrant solicitors' offices, these places that were exposed last week as being corrupt. They supposedly fired a few people who were involved in this jiggery-pokery, but they've now shut the actual firms down, which is great. It's the first time I've ever seen anything done this quickly.
I know, right? I'm surprised Channel 4 weren't sniffing around doing investigations. Am I? But, you know, I think this has been a known for a long time, hasn't it? That you've got dodgy lawyers and, you know, these sort of like fake weddings. This has been reported in the press.
Yeah.
Decades enabling people to get into the country illegally, and thankfully someone did an expose on it and some action has been taken. But why has it taken so long in terms of the reporting of this, and then in terms of the action? Is there not some sort of watchdog who goes around checking that solicitors' practices are operating lawfully? You would imagine there should be some sort of organisation that is in place to do that, and if so, why are they being caught napping on the job?
Well, exactly. I mean, these are the people who have actually done the job that they were supposed to do, the Solicitors Regulation Authority. But you're quite right, because, you know, I've been getting loads and loads of messages from people who say all you've got to do is go to certain parts of the country, go to certain sort of communities in the country, and you will see these law firms all over the place advertising for, you know, immigration services, advertising for, you know, get your British passport here, all of that sort of stuff. It's their speciality. It's an absolute gold mine, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, the one thing I've always found quite intriguing about the entire human trafficking international organisations that manage to operate with impunity is they often leave big paper trails, you know, that how on earth are you advertising your services? One, of course, is TikTok, and it took a long time for the government to tamp down on social media being used to advertise channel crossings. But how do people get around buying a ruddy great dinghy on a regular basis? Right. I mean, surely there's a paper trail there as well. I don't think it could be that difficult to bust some of these trafficking rings, and then the enablers on the other side of the channel who are here to pick people up on the other side. You know, when people come across on boats, very often there are cars waiting to collect people and whisk them off into the black markets or whatever it may be. So without those people being hauled in, I don't understand how an organisation, an operation that has such a large footprint manages to continue to thrive as it does.
Well, exactly right, because, I mean, you would imagine that, you know, those huge boats that they come on, they call them small boats, but they're not very small. You know, you get 50 or 60 people on them. You'd think if you had those loaded up on a trailer, say 5 deep, you'd probably see that from space driving up the old Calais auto route, wouldn't you? You'd think somebody could just pull them over and go, what are you doing? Hello, hello, hello. What are you doing with those dinghies? Oh, nothing, sir. I'm just taking them up to the beach, you know. Obviously, what they know where these people are. I've got more bad news for you, because apparently over the course of the next month or so, a fifth of the French police are going to take their annual leave, so which means there's going to be even fewer French police around to actually arrest these characters before they get in the boats.
You know, you might actually find that reduces the flow of migrants crossing the channel because there are fewer people taking backhanders.
Actually, right, because that was the case.
That might mean some of the traffickers have to go on holiday too.
That was the case, wasn't it, when Border Force went on strike? I think it was actually more difficult for the migrants to cross the channel because they weren't being picked up by the Border Force and brought to Dover in their own personal boats. So yeah, but I mean, it's the beginning at least of something. I mean, I'm seeing. I know that people say that I should be more cynical about these things, but I'm sort of seeing the beginning of some chinks of light in the government here. You know, if you're actually going to shut these firms down, if you're going to look as if you might move slightly away from the whole net zero madness, you know, could we be onto something? Could they be actually listening to us?
They gaslight us, though, don't they, Mike? Because I've been in this situation so many times. I don't care to remember how many times I feel like I've been drawn in by the Conservative Party only to be spat back out.
Yeah.
I guess for joy when Theresa May announced she was going to restart fracking. That was a long time ago, and yet nothing happened. And now we're finally talking about energy security after the fact. You know, after we've got ridiculous wholesale energy prices because Russia invaded Ukraine, after we had to go cap in hand to Qatar, after the fact that, you know, Nord Stream 2, Nord Stream 1 not happening. If we had fracking when Theresa May promised it, not only would we have energy security, we would be exporting that fuel right now and coining it in. We would be filling the coffers of this government government and not circling the plug hole financially. And this is the problem with the Conservative Party. As soon as they realise that the needle has gone the wrong direction for them in terms of public popularity, they will say anything. And two things then happen after such conservative announcements. Number one, the other half of the party starts staging some kind of revolution or revolt. Right. The usual sort of types who come from the sort of leafy Surrey constituencies start moaning and groaning to their mates in mainstream media and then plotting, overthrows and 1922 committee and all of that nonsense kicks off again. And the other thing is they will simply not deliver it, even if they had party support, because they usually promise things that when it comes to the bounds of international convention, they cannot do. They'll suddenly realise that, it's wrong illegally, or that, for whatever reason, we've signed up to some international treaty or prevent us doing this or that. They're extremely good at spin and rhetoric. They know how to talk the talk whenever it suits them. But after 13 years, can we honestly say we've ever see them walk the walk? Because I can't think of one thing that they've actually done that seems remotely conservative.
Well, I did say that yesterday, that, barring the getting Brexit done conversation, which is up to a point done, but then a lot more needs to be done before you can call it properly done. At the end of the day, they haven't really done much in 13 years, have they? Apart from sort of running everything into the ground. Nothing really works anymore, and you can't really rely on anything.
Yeah, what they seem to have done is given loads of their mates, consultancy mates, billions of pounds for a railway track that doesn't even exist and is like to be cancelled. I feel like that's the only thing I can remember the Conservative Party for. Everything else that they have semi-achieved, they haven't even achieved. If you look at the whole matter of Brexit, there would not have been an EU referendum without UKIP. There would have not have been this deal rushed through Parliament and a successful general election for Boris Johnson, were it not for the Brexit Party. Even the big wins that they claim are not big wins at all. I think the only thing, well, two things perhaps, that the government could claim to have done well and conservative would have been the vaccine rollout, in terms of saying to the EU, we're not going to join your ridiculous procurement scheme. We are going to go do this ourselves. But they were aided and abetted by the private sector. It's AstraZeneca who should be getting the round of applause for that, quite frankly. And then the second thing is coming to the aid of Ukraine. And that is something we should be very proud of. But again, I think we were able to do that because of our geopolitical location and because of the fact we're not tied into arms deals with Germany. And some of the powers that be that make sure those decisions are made don't change with every government.
But a lot of people will say, yeah, well, that's all very well, but, where does that go? Where does it end? It's a sort of open-ended commitment which nobody really understands and which nobody knows how much the end cost is going to be. And when we're in a state of flux in terms of our economy, there's going to be more and more people, like they do in America, asking the question, what are we doing this for?
Well, I think it's very clear what we're doing this for, because believe you me, Mike, if we don't do this, the axis against the West is emboldening itself with every single passing day. And I'm extremely alarmed, actually, about what is going on in Niger and across the Sahel region of Africa. People might think, well, what's important about that? Everything's important about that. This is where all the world's rare earth minerals are. This is where a lot of fossil fuels are. And frankly, when the communist powers take over in a neo-colonial way those states, they are running all of the earth's minerals and resources that we desperately need to maintain our power. But, I think when it comes to Ukraine, this is a big opportunity. We've got a huge arms sector in the UK. It's a massive employer and a big contributor to GDP in this country. So let's just ramp up production. Let's ramp up production and create a lot more jobs in places like BAE Systems. In many respects, this could be a big win for us.
OK, well, stay where you are, because we've got some other things to talk about as well. Alex Phillips is with us, former MEP, of course. Lots more to do.